My brothers and sisters in Christ, earlier this week we read from the 5th chapter of the letter to the Romans, in which Paul put forth a very powerful foundation for the doctrine of original sin. We reflected on the fact that our death ultimately is rooted in a spiritual reality, even before one of the flesh. And that is, all the negative consequences flow forth from estrangement from God. And so Adam and Eve, the very first outcome of their sin is separation and relationship from God. And bodily death, the darkening of the intellect, concupiscence, all these things flow forth from that. And therefore it is in the reverse order that we are brought to salvation. Jesus comes to first reunite us to the Father, and then slowly we are remade in this image and likeness of God to be restored. The last enemy to defeat it is the death of the flesh itself. But if we are set right in relationship with God, then slowly order can be restored to that which was fully disordered. Well, today in our first reading, we hear a snapshot of what this disorder looks like. And disorder is a word that gets used in different theological topics that sometimes people bristle at what this means. But it's important to understand exactly how we are all disordered. And that is as a consequence of original sin. So again, we look at what happened with Adam and Eve. First of all, there's this separation from God. Until we're baptized, we do not have the divine inheritance. We are completely separated. Then from that, there is the fact that we are mortal. Our flesh decays, we will die. Our souls are immortal, but our flesh is mortal, and so we will die. There is inherently an inconsistency now for all of us who are created as a body-soul composite. Now there is something that's not quite right. We're created for communion with God. That's estranged. Then there's this conflict between us and others, a rupture in charity that is a fruit of pride. And then there is division amongst ourselves. And that is, even body and soul do not line up correctly now, because one is subject to death. Well, within this, even our faculties become disordered. And we hear Paul speak powerfully. I do not do the good that I will, and yet I do the evil that I wish not to do. And this is our experience of temptation and sin. I don't want to struggle with this, and yet I do. And this is because all of the various capacities we have of our intellect, our emotions, our appetites, our will, all of these are at odds. This is the result of us being jumbled up. We're not oriented the way that we are supposed to be. And so this is the very nature of humanity struggling with sin, is we become all mixed up. We are disordered. The order which God created and willed is out of place, out of harmony. It is disordered. And so we can use this language, and one of the perhaps most famous examples, this comes up with the church's teaching on homosexuality, of speaking that same-sex attraction is disordered. Well, it doesn't mean that people are inherently bad because they have this. Certainly, sexually acting out in this way is sinful. But when we speak even of the attraction, we can say, well, no, it's not sinful, but it is disordered. Well, we can say this isn't meant to be an insulting term to use for anyone, because in fact we can speak of every sinful condition, every struggle we have, as particular disorderings that we experience. Why do I want to eat more than my body needs? That's a disorder. So whether I consume too much, whether I am attracted in the wrong way to different things, whether I lust, whether I seek to possess, not just in terms of sex, but of material goods, I want to possess things that I don't need to possess. Why do my feelings rage against my reason? I'm colored, I act, without reason because my emotions overwhelm me. All of these things are the human person in a state of disorder. And so this is important as Paul speaks to this, because he sets forth a very accurate picture of the sorry state in which we find ourselves without the Lord. But Paul is setting all this forward to then paint a portrait of charity, but ultimately of how Jesus comes to save us from this condition. And it all starts with the one who is perfectly ordered, the Word made flesh, the Son of God, taking on our human flesh to do things right and to set things right so that we may follow and be restored to that which was meant to be ours from the beginning of time. May God bless you all.